Hi, everyone. Welcome to this webinar by Unify Apps. It is going to be the first of many that we're going to be basically running over the next few weeks. So again, this is the agenda we're going to go through today. We're going to be basically talking about AI nativity, the challenges enterprises face in scaling AI in general and agentic AI specifically. How do we tackle that through the Unify Apps platform, and then how enterprises are using Unify Apps. Gonna spend a lot of time showing different demos and then closing off. You see in your screen a Q&A section, so please ask your questions there, any information you're looking for. We have a team in the background that will answer your questions as well. So let's get started. So before jumping into, directly into what Unify App does, just for us all to align on some key aspects, right? So I want to take you a bit down, a bit through history. But if we look at every major transformation that happened for us, right, starting with the mechanical era, right, that drove industrial revolution and other things for the last 300 years and more. It really started with the steam engine, and then that really changed everything. For a lot of businesses were created, a lot of jobs. It really transformed the role of the human workforce to become operators, to move the physical labor to start really operate machinery and vehicles that are actually doing the work for us, right? So that drove a lot of change, a lot of transformations. Then we moved to the digital era, right? When computing became accessible to everyone, then internet, then mobile, cloud, etc., and everything that followed for the last 40, 50 years. And we started to hear the term digital natives, right? Digital native companies that now some of the largest companies in the world that were created for that, right? If we talk of Amazon, Apple, Uber, and others, right? And a lot of companies disappeared because they weren't able to really transform as quickly as needed through that. And from a human workforce perspective, we transitioned to become admins of these different softwares that we were created. So from operators to admins. And now we're in the intelligence era, right? In this AI transformation that we're going to go through in the next few years, that's really just started, right? LLMs, once they become large language models, once they became accessible, it really showed the potential that this technology is going to thrive. And we're going to go through probably the next, I'm sure it's not going to take 300 years, but probably a few years of major transformations, right? That's going to impact businesses. There will be AI native businesses that's going to surface, which already are, and they're going to become some of the largest companies in the world, but also companies that will be impacted and disappear, right? The same as happened in the previous eras. And the same thing on the human workforce. We're going to basically move from being admins to becoming governors, right? We're going to have AI agents doing the work for us, where our job is going to become to review, approve, provide feedback, and really govern these different AI agents. Okay. So with that said, this is some numbers by McKinsey that suggest, around 88 to 90% of companies are trying to be AI native, right? They obviously see the opportunity and they want to start to really do that AI transformation towards AI nativity, right? While on the other side, a famous MIT report last year came up, made a lot of noise, suggesting that a lot of companies are doing Gen AI pilots, experiments. 95% are not really delivering any value or not succeeding when they hit production, right? So a lot of contradiction, right? Obviously, massive opportunity for transforming all our businesses and our lives, but also a lot of challenges. And these challenges, we try to summarize them or club them into these three key challenges, right? Why do these AI pilots fail? Why are we not able to scale our AI? And again, when we say AI, really, AI is a big umbrella, so we're really focused on agentic AI. The first one is the data context, right? So naturally, data is sitting in different systems, databases, data warehouses, and then if I'm not able to really get that together and make some meaning out of it, agents will lack consistency and will lack accuracy, right? The next thing is the actionability context, which is I'm not going to just build AI agents to answer questions. I need these agents to do work, right? And to a lot, in some cases, autonomous work. So I need them to be connected to my different systems and work tools to be able to execute actions, right? And not just be read only. And then the last and probably the most important one really is the governance context. So the AI nativity means every organization is going to have dozens and hundreds of AI agents, right? So if I'm not able to really govern them from a central place, define my policies, my guardrails, my principles, right? So that these agents are running in a transparent manner and in a manner that I can control, these agents will fail in the real world, right? And then this will, again, prevent me from scaling. So with these three challenges in mind, what we actually have done is really, first, we're going to help you unify the data, or we need to unify the data, both structured and unstructured. So my documents and images are also data that's sitting in my databases and software solutions so that agents can see the full picture, right? Then we're going to really need to unify actionability so that we can allow agents to take actions, right, by unifying our connectors and connectivity to the different systems, but really without just giving the keys to our AI agents, right, to all of my different systems, my CRM, ERP, and my email, and all of the different systems and tools being used. And then the third is really unifying the governance context so that I can define my policies and controls and guardrails once, and all agents inherit it. And I'm also able to really have full observability and monitoring of what's going on and what are these agents doing, right? And then at the heart of this kind of architecture, in the heart of these three contexts, is where you actually are able to really build very easily and quickly AI agents and automate workflows and build custom applications for human in the loop, right? So that you can really cover the full life cycle of agents from building to managing them to monitoring them and really scaling these AI agents. So in a bit more detail, this is what Unify Apps does. We, as we said, at the bottom of this, the foundation is really connecting to your different systems, getting that data in, both structured and unstructured, using a single layer for data and knowledge to build our ontology and graph. So really making the data ready for AI and AI is able to understand it. And then at the top, start to build and cover the full life cycle of building AI agents and apps and automating workflows, with a layer of governance that covers everything from observability and access control and auditing and defining guardrails, etc. And also having, like we said at the right side, the actionability context, so that these agents can invoke other agents, right, that are sitting maybe out there, talk to my systems, execute actions, and talk to my systems of work, right? In a bit more detailed view, a bit more technical view, right? Without repeating much, key things to highlight here, and this is what we call the AI operating system architecture for an enterprise, right? Because this platform is going to be deployed on your infrastructure of choice, right? Especially this is super important, if you're in a highly regulated industry, or you really need to be in control of where is my data being stored and processed and everything around that. So you can deploy the platform on-premise, on a private cloud of choice, or the platform is available on the AWS marketplace, Azure, and GCP marketplace as well. All right, so very flexible there. Same thing with the models. We are LLM agnostic, so we support all of the LLMs. will allow you to bring your own models, your own keys, and even custom models, so that you really, and you are going to need a lot of different models for different use cases, right? Now and in the future. So really for that scale and that becoming AI native is super important to be able to orchestrate these different models across the different layers. So this platform will sit on top of kind of this infrastructure and these models and allow you access integrations through 800 connectors to be able to, again, get data moving, start to take actions in different systems as well and different tools, different data and knowledge capabilities, whether we're talking about unstructured data, so building our knowledge graph and RAG and all of that, but also working with structured data with things like master data management and data pipelines, right? And then the builders on top to really start to build all of that and get things to life and manage the full life cycle. Key thing on the right, you see, right, obviously the actionability part, but also the extendability part. So you can, we support all the newer protocols like MCP and A2A to either invoke external agents or tools, or also orchestrate agent-to-agent collaboration. And also allowing you to build things, maybe here an agent or a workflow, and expose it via an API, so full API gateway, and really that extensibility and openness of the platform to really coexist with what you have in your enterprise and allow you to start to quickly build different AI solutions. So how do customers use us? And this is, we've been working with more than 15 different industries. We are a horizontal platform, so you can take this platform and really build any type of different solution, AI solutions. So a lot of these customers are really with us building an AI center of excellence, right? An AI factory that allows this continuous delivery of AI use cases and provides the agility to do that, right? This is some example use cases. There's a lot more we'll show you in a bit, but really any type of use case, trying to build it right in a single place, like we spoke with all of these contexts. Now, at the same time, there is a parallel thread that's going on, which really is about driving that AI nativity within the organization by really allowing different departments and business users to also build their own agents. I don't want my employees to go to use public tools like ChatGPT and Claude and maybe share some sensitive data there. I can give them the same experience, right, in a governed platform, allow them to build their own agents, access the different models through a governed and monitored platform, essentially, so that, again, I can drive this AI and behavioral change and allow them to be more productive in their work without compromising on security and other aspects, right? So really, we see these two threads kind of working in parallel in all organizations to drive that road to AI nativity, essentially. Okay, so with that, we're gonna now go into to see that a bit more in action. In this demo, I want to show three different things. First thing is an example of an existing business process that exists in most organizations, invoice reconciliation, right? It's a process in finance that really already exists. In most cases, it's mostly manual. And then we're basically taking this process and automating it through a team of AI agents that can do most of the job, and then just have the human, the finance auditor just approve or reject, right? After the process has been already executed, right? So this is going to be the first example. The second demo we're going to see is, what I would say is the next generation of AI applications, right? This idea of having a type of command center, AI-powered command center that is analyzing my data, right? So I have a team of AI agents, again, working in the background, analyzing my data, surfacing for me patterns and insights and signals, but also providing me full reasoning on what's happening and what's the recommendation, right? And this, what we're going to see is an example against supply chain data, but this really can apply to any type of data this concept of these types of command centers, I would say. And then the third and last thing we're going to see is what we believe is going to be the future of work in an enterprise, how these AI native organizations are going to look like, right? We're calling it the enterprise brain, but really it's about having a central place where I can obviously first access all of my agents and apps and engage with them, but also have a view of how much automation is happening inside my organization. These AI agents, how much work are they doing? What are they costing me? And what is the ROI I'm getting behind, right? So really having that full view of the brain of your AI native organization, and then we're going to see how that looks like. All right, so the first demo we're going to see is this invoice recon, right? So what you're going to see in the next few minutes is two things. I'm going to first look at it from the end solution, right? How does that look like from a business user point of view, the end user, or in this case, the finance department, how they're going to use it. And then we're going to see how it was built on the Unify Apps platform, right? So we're going to see how we build these team of different agents, how they're working together, and then how we have the human in the loop to take the final action, and how all of that was built, right? So let me jump right into it. This is the actual Unify Apps platform. You basically, what you saw on that high-level architecture diagram initially is I'm going to have the ability to work with my agents, building my agents and teams of agents, my applications, my workflows, work with my data, right? And then you saw at the bottom, it all going to start with connectivity, right? So this is where I'm able to access these, more than 800 connectors to common systems and solutions and start to really connect it to, for example, my different CRM like Salesforce, or connected to my different solutions from Oracle, or Microsoft, whether it's, different solutions or Azure services or, my Office, etc. So you're going to find here the majority of commonly used systems and tools that you can easily configure your connector that you're going to use for your agents and apps, etc. We're happy to keep building this, expanding this library, and it keeps expanding very quickly. But it's going to be very easy for me to come in, define my, my credentials and authentication for, in this case, Salesforce as my CRM. And it's not just, your typical API call that I just, we just wrapped it. It's really very robust and scalable capabilities of a full integration platform, right? So I'm going to be able to define what happens when an API call fails, when an API is unresponsive. If I want to specify some throttling, some limits on these API calls, I'm able also to do that. So really, again, the objective is not just to call an API, is to have a connector that is robust and scalable, that is going to be accessed by dozen or hundreds of AI agents, and that's going to be able to manage and scale as well, part of that. Okay, so we're going to set up our connectors at first, but then let's go into see that invoice reconciliation solution we spoke about, right? So this is how it's going to look like for me as a as a finance analyst in the finance department. I'm going to see all the invoices that came through that got processed by the different agents. If I click on an invoice, I'm going to basically, what I'm looking at here is this invoice that came in, every agent, what did it do and what was the result, right? So the first agent is basically document analyzer. It extracted the information from this document, right, this invoice, and started to match it against my purchase order, which is sitting in my CRM, and my goods receipt, right, making sure that all is matching. Then an additional financial validation agent who goes and looks at my tax rate, if it's accurate, my currency exchanges, my discounts, right? A checklist that I usually follow in my finance department for this type of job. Then the third agent is a policy compliance agent, which is going to look again at, is this an approved vendor? Again, are we following specific guidelines? Maybe some ESG guidelines as well, if applicable, right? So again, specific checklists and policies and guidelines that I normally follow, right? So every agent will do its work, and then it's going to come to the decision agent who's going to provide me my recommendation and reasoning of what is the actual, is this an approved invoice, everything is okay, or there is anything not working. Now, what actually happened kind of behind the scenes, right? I'm going to show you here the chain of thought of these agents, what they actually did, because we just looked at an app that was already processed. But what actually happened when that invoice came in, and you can see here the chain of thought, right? The document analyst agent did his thing to analyze the document, extract the information, then passed it to a financial analyst agent, and then the policy agent, right? So you can see very transparently the chain of thought that happened with every agent doing its work and just surfacing the results for me in this application, right? I'll show you quickly another invoice where we maybe have some discrepancies. You can see here, for example, there was a mismatch in the quantities, right, and in the amounts that was surfaced. And then the decisioning agent kind of gave me a recommendation to reject the excess quantity, right, or flag the different risks for me as well. Okay, so this is the end view, the solution that was actually built, and how business users would actually use it. Now, how it was built. So coming back into the actual Unify Apps platform, what you're basically seeing is the agent builder here, where I have this team of agents we spoke about. And basically, we're going to look at how you can easily build different AI agents in Unify Apps, right? So if we take that document analysis agent, the way you build agents is very easy. All configuration based. Again, I don't need to learn different coding skills and coding frameworks to be able to do that. I'm just going to define my instructions for this agent, right? Usually in natural language or prompts. I'm going to give that agent access to knowledge, right? Like any employee, before this agent starts to do work, it needs to learn my specific guidelines. And in this case, what type of information it's gonna look for in these invoices, right? And now here I can basically add new knowledge to it. Again, it could be documents that I upload manually, which is very rare in a scalable enterprise, right? Usually you would go use these connectors, and then maybe I'll point it to a SharePoint where I'm going to use, a folder with hundreds of different documents as a knowledge source for this agent, right? And this is where this connectivity comes super useful, because I'm going to, use these connectors and basically be able to start to get knowledge into my agents. If it's unstructured data, maybe I want to connect it to my Snowflake, right, or my Databricks data lake, right? So it's going to allow you to bring in both structured and unstructured knowledge or data to be used as knowledge by these different agents, right? I can also, point it to a website or use a local data catalog that's kind of being managed on Unify Apps. Okay, now these, you can see these documents were already indexed, etc. What you can actually do, and we're not going to go in very detail on this and very technical, because this is, we understand there are some non-technical attendees as well. But really here, in some cases, I want additional control on what type of data I'm really looking at, or what type of unstructured data or documents. I might want to use different frameworks for parsing and indexing these documents, right? Or I might want to use a vision LLM, which is very common if it's a scanned document or an image that I want to use these models to extract the information from, or even use an automation. And I'll explain what does that mean, but maybe a specific combination of LLMs and different frameworks to do that as well, right? So it gives you a lot of flexibility to do that if you need to, if it's, again, documented in specific formats. If I want to mask some data as I'm, indexing these documents, or enrich it, right? Enrich the metadata so that the agents can understand it better, or the AI can understand it better, right? So coming back to the agent, we define its instructions, its knowledge, then we're going to start to give it what tasks it's able to achieve, right? So These tasks basically are a combination of instructions, again, in the form of natural language. You're going to do these steps or this to process and analyze a document in this case. You're going to see here okay. Maybe I got disconnected for a few minutes. But you're basically seeing here you're able to set up the instructions. What you're seeing here as well is I'm basically telling the agent you're going to use this three-way check tool to basically check the information or the data you're getting, right? And the three-way check tool is basically nothing but an automation, right? A workflow. So here is where I now can use this workflow builder to build my different workflows that are going to be used by the agents to execute tasks, right? So, again, in an example, I would, put a condition, for example, and maybe here I'll call OpenAI to do some prompt. Then I'm going to go to my Salesforce, get some information or update. Maybe I want to write a piece of code to do some specific logic. Part of that, try to extend it using Python or Java or others. I maybe want to use some, we provide some utilities like commonly used functions that you can use to do various things, right? So you have basically here a combination of, maybe I'll, invoke another agent to do something specific, right? Or an MCP, for example. I call a tool via a specific MCP server, right? So you have a combination of, connectors, access to the models, different utilities to be able to define these workflows. In our case, this workflow is being used by the agent as a tool, but these workflows can also live independently, right? And this is where the scale starts to become very useful, because I can instead expose this as an API. So this workflow gets executed from an external, app or agent even. Or I can say this workflow is going to basically run at a scheduled specific interval, right, and execute these set of actions, right? So full workflow automation that can be used by itself. Obviously, when used with the agents as tools, is going to provide you this additional value as well, right? Because I can do a lot of things with prompts, and you are able to do that. I can just use tools, give it access to other systems like, my email. It's going to use it to send emails or fetch emails, for example. I can do that. But using it with the workflow is going to give you more power and more control as well to do additional things. So we kind of define this for agents. You have some options here, which is a bit of advanced concepts. We're not going to, again, go through today, but we're going to do some follow-ups. But very briefly, you can define different types of memories for your agents to learn additional knowledge as it's interacting and doing work, to remember specific events, and this is super useful for personalization, for example, and remembering user context, or to learn additional skills and rules, right, as the users are engaging with the agents or the agents doing work. So you are able to do that, again, if needed for the use case we're trying to solve for. You would define the different guardrails for your agents. I want to mask data. I want to define my hallucination temperatures or thresholds for grounding and relevance. I want to not allow it to talk on specific content topics. It's not allowed to basically discuss or reason, basically. And then I would define additional settings for my agents if needed. This is where I have this flexibility to use different models for the same agent to do different functions, right? For task execution, I'm going to use a specific model. For response generation, maybe I'll use a different model, a cheaper one, right? For hallucination detection, I might want to use, again, a different model than the main model doing the actual work. So it gives you flexibility to obviously test and see which model gives you the best results, but also Super important if you want to balance, and some models will be more accurate and better at reasoning. Some models will be cheaper, right, for basic things. Other models will provide better latency and will be faster if that's important for my use case. So I have the full flexibility here to decide which one is going to do what. And, again, some additional configurations on the languages it's going to use, the tonality, the style, etc., which you can also set up. So this is how you build these advanced agents in Unify apps. You can deploy them, again, in different channels. If I wanted this agent to be accessible via Teams or Slack or email, I can do that. I can have it just running in the background doing some work, or I can basically, Copilot basically is in Unify apps, I would deploy this agent and access it through an app or a workflow, like you saw that invoice reconciliation is the agents are being used by an application, right? The last important piece here is, none of this will work in production and scale without deep observability. Without me knowing that this was a session the agent has ran, and every single step, what did it do, how long it took, and how much token it cost me, and what was the input and the output, right? So you can see in very granular detail and very transparently if something is slow, if something is not accurate, or the agent is doing something it's not supposed to do. You'll be able to easily trace that through this kind of type of deep tracing as well, right? And here you can define additional, spending limits on tokens, either by user, etc. Configure alerts around that as well to avoid overusage and some other configurations, right? So this is the way you would build these agents, and this is how we built them for this invoice reconciliation, the different team of agents. The other track I spoke about having the ability for business users to do their own, right? So what you just saw was the advanced agent builder. The simple agent builder is where I'm able to, anyone really can use it. If you've used ChatGPT or others, you can just type what you want it to do in natural language, give it documents, right? Or again, allow it to go talk to my Gmail, to fetch emails or send emails if I need that, give it access to the web to do some search if needed, and just save it, share it with my team, my department, and just I'm able to start using these agents, right? Without having to worry about guardrails and all of that, because it's going to inherit them from what is centrally defined in the platform, right? So this is where this can be exposed to non-technical people to be able to build their own agents in a governed place as well with the deep observability, same thing. Okay, so coming back really quickly to finalize on this before we jump to the second demo. If we look at this solution, how this was built, this invoice reconciliation, we're basically ingesting data from ERP, from the PDFs, the invoices themselves. We're obviously doing some normalization and indexing and all of that. We have built the 4 agents, the team of agents. We've built that application, and we've built the workflows to be able to orchestrate all of that. We're governing all of this, right? So all of that was built in one place. I didn't need a third-party tool. I didn't need something else to build it, right? All the capabilities I need are in one place, which makes building a solution like this very easy and very quick and very easy to scale, right? The other side, which we didn't cover, is the app itself, right? So this application, this user interface, was also built here on the Unify Apps platform, right? So I have this low-code app builder. I have these rich kind of widgets and components, and I can, go, for example, add a container. You can see here at the bottom, the container came up. I'm going to make it 2 columns, 1 by 1. I'm going to add a card inside it. And maybe inside that card, I'll add a chart, right? And then, I'm going to make it a pie chart. I can change the appearance, the look and feel, and all of that customization I would typically need, and define where is that chart going to be filled from, which data source, which basically here I have, again, access to these connectors to get some data to showcase on these apps, right? Or again, I can use to call a workflow, call an automation, right? To to perform specific logic or specific sequence, right? So again, this is how you would build these user interfaces, these applications very easily. You have an AI assistant. You can ask it questions as well. If you get blocked, how do I do this? How do I do that? As well. You can prompt as well to build some applications without having to drop, so get started very quickly. So really giving you all the tools you need in one place, right? The app builder, building the agents and teams of agents and configuring them, building the workflows that orchestrate, the connectors, right? All of these coming together in one place makes it easy, fast to start to build these AI solutions and scale. All right, the second use case, the second demo is this concept of AI-powered command center. So what you're basically seeing is, again, an application like we just saw built on that low-code app builder, much more rich visually. And basically what's happening here, there are some signals and alerts coming that you can see here. For example, there is a shortage in a specific product in Texas, right? So I'm going to click that and then go into the details of it. And what actually happened is there is first a demand sensing agent that looked at my POS data, at weather data, at social news, and then it kind of did its reasoning, and basically it's saying that there is a early stage demand spikes, right, against these specific SKUs or products. Now, the second agent, because of that, it's looking at my contracts and any risks there. So it's looking at my contracts from my ERP or my different systems of records. And basically, it's analyzing that because of this demand surge, we might breach some contracts. In specific, we're going to breach a Walmart contract that is due, right? Then the third set of agents are going to, again, look at all of that and then look at inventory, look at capacity of manufacturing and logistics, each in specific data and reasoning. And they're going to suggest to me that recommendation is to move some inventory from California to Texas to rebalance that shortage, right? So that you make sure you meet your SLA, you're not breaching the contract, etc., right? So it's giving you the reasoning and the recommendation. Now, me as a human, I can either approve, and that will go place the order in my order management system to move this inventory, or I can just even do it manually. But at least I have these agents always monitoring, in this case, the supply chain, my inventory, my contracts, etc., each specialized in its domain. And then they're all kind of working together to surface me risks and recommendations and these AI signals. And I always have, an AI assistant here. If I want to ask them questions, get additional in a more conversational manner, I'm still always able to do that, right? So this is what the next generation of applications will look like, where I'm not always just chatting to an AI agent to get work done. Agents are doing the work in the background, surfacing me the results, taking actions as well, right? And allowing me to really mitigate a lot of risk, gain a lot of productivity as well. Okay. The third demo we want to look at is this concept of the enterprise brain we spoke about, right? Really how the future of work is going to look like. But basically, what we vision, and it's not vision because a lot of our customers are already using this, but basically, once you're on your way to become an AI native, you're going to have these dozens and hundreds of agents, right? So I want a place where I can first see these agents by department, right? How many are live? How many are still being built or in progress? And then naturally, I can go and invoke this agent and chat with it if it's a chat or a conversational agent. But more importantly, I'm able to see this agent, how much ROI is driving, what is the value, what is the cost, right? That is this behind this agent, right? So if I drill down, it's going to show me how many hours it's actually, how much work it's doing. What is the impact in terms of a dollar value from an hour saved or efficiency? And what is the adoption? What roles and departments are actually using this agent, right? So super important. As you scale, you want to really always try to understand what is the value I'm getting from every single agent or app I'm building, right? And to be able to do it in one place and track that transparently is going to help you. If an agent is not really driving value, retire it, and then let's move on and build the next one and the next one and the next set of agents and applications, right? I can look at it from this view. I can see my agents from a workflow view, right? So my key processes, again, in different departments. For example, my recruitment process. So I can see in every step of the process, what are the agents that are doing activities in that stage, right? And what is the, again, level of automation, the cost, and the ROI, right? So example, in the recruitment screening and evaluations, I have an interview scheduling agent, I have an agent that screens resumes, and I can see how much of that work they're doing. In this same space, I can also see my applications, right? Like this invoice reconciliation we saw. Not all the agents will be conversationals. We're going to need these web and mobile apps, right, to have a human in the loop, but also to have the agents work in the background and service results there. So again, from here, I can, directly access these applications, again, based on my role and what I'm allowed to access across different departments in the same place. I can see my different knowledge sources, right? We spoke about agents needing that knowledge. So if it's documents, if it's systems, again, by department, I can see it. You can also here, if you don't have it, have your, people to suggest edit, suggest missing knowledge, and have a workflow to manage all of that from here. I can also see my connectors, right? My actual systems of record and system and my different tools across sales and HR and engineering and finance and others. And really here, again, back to the cost, and this is going to be super useful for a CFO view to see the number of licenses and users I have in these systems, right? So in one place, I'm able to see my agents, everything related to their utilization, their ROI, their cost, right? All of that, and my applications and my core systems. And the bottom line is AI nativity. I want all my organizations to use AI and automation in some form or fashion, right? So my usual org chart, I'm gonna have a view of what is the AI resources against it, right? What is the level of automation and what type of agents every department is basically using. So my COO is using these agents. Under him, my director of HR, my HR execs are using these different agents, and the level of automation they are achieving in their respective departments and their respective teams, right? So having this view to really track everything, because on that road to AI nativity, everything is going to come back to ROI, adoption, and value, right? Without that, you're going to just spend a lot of money on tokens and on different cool technologies, but that's not really going to drive a lot of value and competitive value for your business in this AI era, right? That we're heading towards, that we spoke about. All right. So this concludes our demo. The last thing I want to leave you with before we kind of close off this first webinar, and again, there will be more of them coming hopefully soon. The alternative to our approach or the Unify Apps platform, again, you're going to have to build dozens, hundreds of AI agents, right? If not now, next year or the next few years. If every time I want to build an agent, I need to use something to build the agent itself, something to automate and orchestrate these different agents, a user interface so that I can visualize the results of the agent and have a human in the loop, some form of deterministic business functions as well and actions, orchestrate different models and LLMs, again, work with my data transformations and make it ready, then have these agents talk to my different systems and tools, right? So every single time I'm going to have to repeat a lot of this, right, in different tools and different tech stacks, right? And this is really when we say this is not scalable, because hundreds of agents, it's going to take you a long time, right? And again, this is the same. It happened with the digital era. The faster you get there is going to bring a lot of competitive advantages to your business. So with the Unify Apps approach, we are unifying these contexts, right? The knowledge and the data connected to your different systems through these robust integration layer. You're unifying your governance, you're unifying your actionability. And then, as you saw, you're building these agents visually through low code, right? Building reusable atomic units, whether it's agents or apps or workflow, and be able to really start just to focus on building the agents. What is the value I'm trying to drive, right? So that's really what Unify Apps is doing. Again, this is a first of many. Hopefully, this was a useful session. Thank you for attending, and hopefully we'll see you again in the next set of webinars that we're going to launch on different topics, everything around AI and AI nativity and agentic AI. But thank you so much for tuning in, and have a lovely rest of your day.